You tell yourself you're ready to move on, that you want to forget. But if that's true, then why does their name still echo in the quiet moments of your day? Why does a memory, a song, or a place they loved still trigger a visceral ache in your chest? You check your phone not out of habit, but with a faint, desperate hope that somehow they've returned. This isn't a conscious choice, it's a compulsion. Let's be brutally honest with each other. The person you're pining for is not the real, flawed human being who hurt you. You are in love with a ghost, a phantom you created. You miss the potential they represented, the future you painted onto them, the reflection of everything you felt was missing within yourself. This is the core of your suffering. The renowned psychologist Carl Jung offered a piercing insight. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Your current heartbreak is not merely a run of bad luck. It is a manifestation of an internal fate you have not yet understood. You are not just grieving a person, you are confronting a mirror held up to your soul, revealing parts of you that you have been too afraid or too unprepared to acknowledge. This journey we are about to embark on is not about superficial affirmations or distracting yourself with new hobbies. It is about excavation. It will be uncomfortable. It will poke at the wounds you've carefully bandaged and hidden away. But this discomfort is the price of your freedom. The brutal truth is that what we often label as passionate, all-consuming love is, in many cases, our own unhealed shadow self clinging to someone who resonates with our deepest wounds. It is your unconscious psyche screaming for validation, even if that validation comes in the toxic currency of pain and intermittent reinforcement. This is not love. It is a form of psychological imprisonment. What if the very nature of your attachment, the gut-wrenching anxiety when they ignore you, the devastating feeling of rejection, has almost nothing to do with them and everything to do with an unfulfilled quest within you? In this exploration, we will navigate the dark, intricate labyrinth of your own mind. We will uncover the hidden mechanisms that keep you chained to those who cause you harm.
Have you ever found yourself truly wondering why the rational list of their faults, the broken promises, the subtle put-downs, the emotional unavailability, holds no power against the irrational, magnetic pull you feel towards them? You can intellectually articulate the ways they've caused you harm, yet a force far older and more powerful than your logical mind seems to command your heart. It feels like a spell, a form of witchcraft you can't break. But the source of this magic is not in their eyes or their words. It is hidden in the deepest, uncharted waters of your own psyche. The revolutionary insight of Carl Jung was that our relationships are rarely just interactions between two conscious adults. Instead, they function as a powerful, living theater where the hidden dramas of our unconscious psyche are desperately played out on the stage of another person. When we believe we are falling in love, we are often not seeing the other person in their full, flawed, and authentic humanity. We are instead engaging in a psychological phenomenon called psychic projection. Think of your unconscious mind as a vast, dark room filled with treasures and monsters you've never seen. Projection is the mechanism by which you take these unknown contents, the latent potentials, the repressed desires, the denied weaknesses, the unlived lives, and beam them out onto the world, and most intensely, onto other people. It's like a movie projector casting an image onto a blank screen. The other person becomes that screen. They are no longer just themselves, they are now the carrier of your own disowned soul parts. This process is often centered around what Jung called the anima, the inner feminine image in a man's unconscious, and the animus, the inner masculine image in a woman's unconscious. These are not gender roles, but archetypal energies representing the qualities that complement our conscious personality. A man who is highly rational and driven in his outer life may project his unconscious anima, his capacity for feeling, connection, and soulfulness, onto a woman who seems to embody these traits. Similarly, a woman may project her inner animus, her inner strength, intellectual clarity, or purpose onto a man who appears to possess them. This is where the phantom lover is born. This person you ache for is a composite illusion. A real person provides the faint outline, but you fill in the details with the vibrant colors of your own unconscious needs. They may embody, often without any conscious intention on their part, an archetype that symbolizes everything you feel is missing.
This agonizing pattern of projection and dependency does not emerge from a vacuum. It is not a random flaw in your character, but rather the logical, heartbreaking outcome of a survival strategy you mastered in childhood. Long before you ever met this person who hurts you, you learned a foundational, terrifying lesson about love, that it was not a birthright, but a reward to be earned. You learned that to be safe, to be seen, to be worthy of affection, you had to become what others needed you to be. Perhaps you received love only when you were quiet, when you achieved, when you were helpful, or when you suppressed your tears and anger. The message was clear. Your authentic, messy, emotional self was too much or not enough. In response, your psyche, in its brilliant adaptability, began to construct a persona, a sophisticated, carefully crafted mask designed to navigate the world by pleasing it. The term persona comes from the Latin word for the mask worn by actors in the theater, and that is precisely its function, a character you perform to secure your place in the social drama. In its healthy form, the persona is necessary and functional. It is the you that interacts politely with a cashier, that presents professionally in a meeting, that behaves appropriately at a formal event. It is a social lubricant. The pathology begins not with the existence of the mask, but when you and those around you start to confuse the mask for your face. When you begin to believe that the performance is the truth of who you are, you enter a state of self-betrayal. The authentic self, your core being with its unique needs, desires, flaws, and brilliance, is slowly pushed into the shadows, where it languishes in silence. In a relationship marked by emotional dependency, this persona doesn't just make an appearance, it takes center stage and commandeers the entire production. You are no longer a person in a relationship, you are a performer, desperately seeking a positive review from a one-person audience. This is where the great self-betrayal occurs. You dim your brightness, fearing your success or joy might intimidate or overshadow them. You silence your opinions, swallowing your truth to avoid the conflict or disapproval that feels like a threat to your very survival. You smother your own needs, convincing yourself you are easygoing or low maintenance, when in reality, you are teaching people how little you require to stay. You become a master of perception, constantly monitoring their mood, their tone, their body language, and calibrating your performance accordingly. Are they distant? You become more attentive. Are they critical? You become more apologetic. Are they bored? You become more entertaining. This relentless self-editing is an exhausting full-time job, and the wage you are paid is mere crumbs of validation. But here is the cruel, paradoxical trap. The validation you so desperately seek from them can never, ever.
What you are experiencing is not a disorder to be silenced, but a message to be decoded. That tightness in your chest, the insomnia, and the obsessive vigilance over your phone are not merely signs of neediness. They are the muffled, desperate screams of your own soul. This anxiety is a profound internal alarm system, and it is ringing because you are living a lie that is costing you your very self. Your body, in its innate wisdom, is responding to a psychological crisis as if it were a physical threat. The perceived abandonment or rejection by the person who holds your projection registers in your primal brain as a life or death situation, flooding your system with stress hormones that prepare you to fight, flee, or freeze. You are, in the most literal sense, in a state of survival, trapped in a psychological cage of your own making. This turmoil is a direct result of a shattered inner peace. Carl Jung taught that the psyche constantly strives for balance, a state he called psychic equilibrium. When you consistently betray your authentic needs and mold yourself to another's expectations to maintain a relationship, you ignite a violent civil war within. On one side is the false self, the performing persona, begging for external acceptance. On the other is your true self, your essential nature, screaming for authenticity and liberation. The anxiety you feel is the intense friction of this battle. The tightness in your chest is the physical manifestation of trying to fit your expansive true self into the constricted space allowed by the false relationship. Your heart races because your soul is pounding against the walls of its prison. The fear of losing the other is so potent precisely because you have already lost yourself, and their absence would make that devastating internal reality inescapably clear. Therefore, to see this anxiety only as a problem to be medicated or suppressed is a catastrophic error. It is like disconnecting a fire alarm because the sound is unbearable while the building continues to burn. Your anxiety is not your enemy. It is your most honest and loyal guardian, relentlessly urging you to fight for your own soul. The path to healing begins not by asking, how do I make this stop so I can return to the relationship, but by courageously asking, what is this anxiety trying to show me? Every wave of dread is a summons to listen. That knot in your stomach is your soul asking to be heard. When you interrogate the fear of loss, you uncover the core wound, the belief that you are unlovable or nothing without them, that the relationship was merely bandaging. This anguish is the necessary heat required to forge a new integrated self. It is the undeniable evidence that your soul is still fighting to be whole, and it will not stop its alarm until you finally, courageously choose to answer its call.
You may believe you consciously choose your partners, but what if the most powerful and decisive choices are being made by a hidden director operating from the depths of your own mind? This director is your shadow, a concept from Jungian psychology that holds the key to understanding your painful cycles of repetition. Your shadow is not a monster in the closet. It is the vast repository of everything you have ever been taught was unacceptable, ugly, shameful, or too much. It contains your raw anger, your primal desires, your unexpressed grief, your ambition, your vulnerability, your wildness, all the vital parts of your humanity that you had to disown, repress, and lock away in order to be considered a good child, a pleasing partner, a respectable member of society. But what you repress does not vanish. It gains a powerful, autonomous life in the darkness of your unconscious, and it perpetually seeks expression, most often through projection in your relationships. You are unconsciously magnetized to people who embody your own hidden shadow qualities. If you are punished for your anger, you may find yourself in a relationship with a volatile person who acts it out for you. If you deny your own need for control, you may submit to a domineering partner. If you are shamed for your sensitivity, you might be drawn to someone emotionally numb, living out the frozenness you imposed upon yourself. This is the cruel, intelligent mechanism of the shadow. You love in them the power or freedom you have denied in yourself, and you hate in them the mirrored reflection of your own repressed self. This is why you repeat the same painful pattern with different people. The names and faces change, but the underlying dynamic of attraction and pain remains eerily the same. You are not cursed. You are being guided by your unconscious shadow, which seeks to be seen and integrated by relentlessly attracting living mirrors of its contents. As Jung famously stated, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves.
The cycle will not break through willpower alone, for willpower is a tool of the conscious mind, and you are dealing with a force from the unconscious. The only way to disarm this hidden puppeteer is through the courageous and compassionate work of turning inward, acknowledging the existence of these disowned parts, and inviting them back into the light of your conscious awareness, thereby transforming your fate from an unconscious repetition into a conscious choice.
There comes a pivotal moment on this journey when the pain of remaining trapped in this cycle becomes greater than the fear of stepping into the unknown. A moment when you realize you can no longer live divided between the mask you wear and the truth that screams within you. This is the sacred threshold of individuation, the process Carl Jung described as the ultimate goal of the human psyche, the conscious journey of becoming the undivided, unique individual you were always meant to be. This is not a passive healing or a gentle return to innocence. It is an active, often arduous pilgrimage back to your own core. It demands that you turn inwards with brutal honesty, no longer asking why they hurt you, but why you agreed to stay, why you abandoned yourself to keep another close, and what ancient wound within you mistook control for love and dependency for devotion. This path of self-reclamation is walked through daily, courageous choices. Every time you set a boundary instead of bending, choose silence over begging, honor a need you previously suppressed, or sit with your own solitude instead of seeking a distracting connection, you are gathering a lost fragment of your soul. As you do this, a profound alchemy occurs. The person you once craved begins to shrink to their true size, no longer a god or a demon, but simply a human being who was once mistaken for a salvation. Letting go then becomes the final, sacred act of this integration, not as an act of erasing the past, but as a conscious and willing release of the psychic bond that chains you to it. It is the profound understanding that holding on to someone who destroys you is like trying to swim to shore while dragging an anchor. You will drown in the very pain you are trying to escape. This release is a necessary death, a mourning for the phantom lover, the hoped-for future, and the old identity built around their absence. Yet this pain is the labor of your rebirth, creating the fertile space for your true self to finally breathe, expand, and live. It is the privilege of a lifetime to become who you truly are, and this journey back to yourself is the only one that truly sets you free.